All right, guys, we are back again. Dynamic Man Podcast, episode 23, How to Fix Female Behavior. This is a unplanned podcast. Sometimes you just got to do that, guys. Sometimes you just got to jump in. You can't have everything scheduled ahead of time. Sometimes you got to be spontaneous. But yeah, I got 30 minutes here. I got the computer. I got decent lighting. Let's go. Let's talk about this. So this topic, female behavior, I mean, we could spend hours talking about this and all the different contexts that it happens, but I want to talk about this stuff big picture and then get into some practical things and also, of course, reference what is going on right now. Reference basically, how we have gotten into the situation that we've gotten into. So the first thing I'll say here is that, look, I am absolutely a believer in men leading, and with leadership obviously comes responsibility. And I look around and I see a lot of men absolutely are not leaders, right? I see a lot of men absolutely do not know how to even lead themselves, let alone, lead a woman, let alone, be a real man. Like, there's definitely a crisis of masculinity in that a lot of men have just completely forgotten how to be men, or if they ever never knew it to begin with, it was never shown to them. And I also understand how in practice that is going to be very frustrating for women, right? That women are going to be disgusted by a lot of those men, and it creates a cascade effect. I mean, if you guys remember the very controversial episode 22, and we talked about polygamy, and we're going to return to that topic later on. Just a few quick things on it. The main point of this, some of you guys have seen me on the timeline talking a lot about polygamy. I'm not trying to encourage polygamy. I don't think, for at least Caucasian populations, it's a normal way of doing things. I don't think that we're really wired very well for it. There's obviously some inputs, but it's not how we've ever really had social organization that way. So I'm not advocating for it. I'm not saying it's the correct move, right? But it's happening because of this collapse in men in the market, right? So you have some men who understand how to deal with women, and they're leading de facto polygamous lifestyles anyway, except without any parental investment. And that's kind of the point, right? They're having the harem without the investment of resources and progeny. And my main point in all the polygamy stuff is just simply to point out like, hey, this stuff is really fucked up. Like, you can't, and so the fact that rich men are finally saying, you know what, I'm going to have kids, I'm going to do this arrangement. You shouldn't be freaking out about it, because it's already happening on a wide scale with zero productive benefit. Okay, so tying that to today's thing about how to fix female behavior, you can talk about men and how men are dropping out, but a lot of men are dropping out because of this ongoing shit test phenomenon, right? This ongoing escalation of toxic behavior that is never getting called out. It's not getting called out. The church is not calling it out. I get really frustrated as a Christian. I get really, really frustrated as a Christian when I see Christian commentators. They're like so about a pet project like polygamy, right? Again, something that's completely fucking irrelevant for the vast majority of people. Because that's one thing they can say, men need to discipline their sex drive. You know what? Shut the fuck up for a second. Shut the fuck up, because you have no clue what is actually going on out there. Are women disciplining their sex drive? Obviously not. This app that just came out, #1 app, right? This shows you just the scale of female toxicity out there. That women are talking to each other and obviously lying to each other, creating, hysterical narratives. I'm not saying that there aren't bad guys out there. Obviously, guys are playing some of these women, but the point is, these women are all sleeping with the same man. That's what's happening. That's the point of this app, right? It is an app for toxic women. Now, of course, not every woman is going to join it, and just because it's the #1 app doesn't mean that, you should think that every single woman is on this kind of stuff. But this isn't the first time we've talked about this, right? We talked about the stock exchange in New York for these guys. This is what a lot of men have to deal with in the dating market. You don't hear any Christian commentators talking about this, about women, about how women are supposed to behave. Men and women have roles. On people who have high levels of intelligence and agency can negotiate these roles in very specific ways. So the man might lead in a lot of ways in the relationship, but in other ways they might negotiate, the woman's more competent, and there's some kind of thing. There's a lot more maneuverability when you're dealing with high self-awareness, high agency people, high intelligent people, right? Most people don't have that, and so they have to be given very specific roles that are mostly correct, right? They have to be given some kind of guideline about how to go about doing things. I don't have the tweet. Devin Erickson says something really, really, he's a science fiction writer. He's actually got 2 wives, right? He says something very interesting the other day about how women didn't want to be a wife, right? They wanted a man, but they didn't want to be a wife. I thought this was such a profound statement. How he talked about how they really wanted to be pets, right? They wanted to be able to come and go as they please when it felt good for them, when it didn't. But it's actually like gets so much gets to the core of what is going on here. And what is going on here is that women don't understand the role that they have to play in a relationship. And the reality is that the reason they don't understand it is because they haven't been forced to play that role. Men, for a very, very long time, have basically let women get away with fucking anything at all. The boomer generation put all these expectations and demands on their sons, but on the girls, it was, let me make it easier for you. And people talk about this a lot in the workplace, but it's also true from the standpoint of relationships. It was still like, you got to be the good man, you got to do all this stuff, but the woman was never taught how to be a wife, or even to some extent a mother. These were things that she was just supposed to get. She was supposed to get what she wanted. It was a non-reciprocal arrangement. And that has to stop. That's what this is all about at the end of the day. And I'm gonna put up a screenshot of this article. So he says, TLDR of this article. This is, I think, a New York Mag or something like that. In certain social milieu, men have become skittish and disinterested, and women are frustrated because they don't know how or able to lure them back in. Feels like an acknowledgement that we've reached at least one terminus of feminism. It's very hard to rebel against indifference and a lack of attention. It's very hard to demand more of men who evasively default to performative anxiety, discouragement, therapeutic need when anything is asked of them. So this is that whole like therapeutic anxiety stuff. That's like shit lib approach. Act weak. That way they can't do anything to you. Blah blah blah. It doesn't trigger their ego. So it's actually like a interesting sexual strategy to get laid, right? Very internally self-debilitating as a man to maintain that kind of behavior, though, and highly not recommended except in very specific tactical situations if you have to get some crazy woman off your back, right? You can't break up with her because she'll like go nuts. So you have to like, it's called like, you have to act like a total bitch, beta bitch, so that she gets disgusted and leaves. It's a very tactical situation where you can do that. In general, it's very debilitating though, because you're acting like, low rung, right? Low rung in the ladder. So this is a big situation that we've gotten to now. We have hit this terminus where we need to, and I want to emphasize something, that not all modern women are bad or are totally messed up. They're pretty much all infected by feminism to some extent, but my opinion, many of them are not. It's not, metastatic. Like, many of them can be cured of it. Many of them can come back to a healthy dynamic. It's just it's more programming than it is like a spiritual rot. But there are many women who are absolutely totally cooked when it comes to this. And it needs to be called out, and it needs to be utterly rejected. I wrote this long post. I'm kind of not inclined to read it, but I'm going to read it quickly because some people are listening to this. But this is the post that inspired me to want to elaborate more on this stuff. I don't like making posts like this. I love women. I'm a believer in Christ, and healthy relationships between men and women are important to me. It is indeed my life work. But the silence of Christian conservative commentators about apps like T and the increasingly feral behavior of women is deafening. You are losing young men because you have lost the plot. You do not understand what is going on in dating anymore, or worse yet, you lack the will to call it out. Talk about polygamy triggers you when it will affect 1% of relationships. Meanwhile, the #1 app is a woman-only register of the faults, real or imagined, about the women they've dated. You had plenty to say about degenerate men, but nothing about this. No word on the state of modern women and their role in this low-trust climate. I have always been a balanced poster on here. I've called out men for being weak and lazy, for being dull and lifeless, and for being too afraid to take risks with women. I've been hitting on the red pill for its excesses and negativity, as well as its lack of good faith for years. But men are tired of being lectured about how they could accommodate these endless narcissistic escalations in their relations with women. They are opting out of dating because they were incentivized to play games to get women, and now are being pushed for playing games that women demanded them play. They have to be the best men to get women, but if these men don't give women what they want, they get slandered. It's not acceptable. If you want to regain trust and credibility, you need to start addressing female entitlement and delusion. You need to stop giving them a pass and saying shit like, men need to step up. Yes, they do, but you need to step up first and start creating boundaries around bad female behavior and addressing it. You need to be warning your young men and making it a stigma for women to act promiscuously and in bad faith rather than perpetually cater to female victimhood. That you do not, and keep talking in holier-than-thou platitudes feels like either indifference or incompetence. You seem afraid of the ire of your female flock, which implies you are also afraid of your wives. You have modeled being a man in a relationship poorly, and that is why young men don't trust you or your advice. If it seems like I'm being harder on Christians, it's because I am Christian. I want the Christian message to succeed. I believe there's a deep spiritual demand and need for it. But the bottom line is the church has a feminist problem. It has burrowed itself deep into the hearts of 80% of its spiritual leaders, and it corrupts all the good that men could be receiving from it. A renaissance of masculinity is occurring, and to their credit, many conservatives wish this to be so. But what they do not yet grasp is that a man is not truly a man if he cannot discipline a woman. Until he can tell a woman she has been in the wrong and refuse to accept anything other than better behavior, he is little more than her slave. He has to be willing to walk away, to say no. Yes, he must lead by example and cherish her, but her understanding of her own rules and commitment to virtue are just as important as his, and he has to hold her to them. It cannot just be about what she should receive from her man, but also what she must give. Western civilization is in a crisis for many reasons, but you can trace almost every problem back to the fact that Western men lost the ability to keep their women in line. They became too permissive. Okay, so a lot there, all right? But the big point of it that you guys got to get, people got to understand and internalize, is that, and this is where we're going right now, is it's not MGTOW opting out, okay? Because MGTOW opting out is like, I'm gonna take my ball and go home, even though, you don't really even have a ball. You're just gonna go home, and a lot of people don't give a shit in most of the cases. They don't care. What this is, it's about, you are still going out there and meeting women, but you are creating very firm boundaries around what you want. Now, it's much better to do this in the beginning. If you do this in the beginning of when you're dating, you can have really strong results because you come across very attractive. You set proper parameters. You just polarize accordingly. You get the right kind of women drawn towards you, and you push away the wrong kinds. If you're in a serious relationship already, you've been married, you still got to do it if you want to have a better marriage, because I know your marriage is suffering because you haven't done this. But I can't say you're not going to lose your marriage. I can't say that. I've had some amazing results with clients. I'm going to be dropping some testimonials about one client in particular recently, but who hadn't had sex for a year. He's had sex. Everything's going really well because he actually implemented what I'm talking about here and being really firm about his boundaries. Also desire to connect with her and be in relation with her, but requiring reciprocity. A lot of drama up front, a lot of good results already coming early on. Women want this. Women want those boundaries. They want to see that you can say no to them. They want to see that you have structure. Where this conversation gets like diverted and it's all like when it becomes about ego, when it becomes about like the man's like, she's going to tell the woman what to do. He's going to, well, you're trying to keep a woman in line. What do you mean? That means you're intimidated by, no, shut the fuck up. I'm not intimidated by you. I do not want to deal with your bullshit. That's it. I don't want to deal with your bullshit. And it's not about you doing what I want in the sense that you're my little slave and you have to do everything that I say because I'm the man and where. It's not about that. It's that I want respect. I want to be treated well. I want to be able to have a regular sex life. And I don't want to have to take responsible for things that I didn't have authority over, right? I'll take responsibility for anything if you let me have the authority. But if you want to take the authority and then you want to put the responsibility on me, you're disrespecting me. That's what this is about. These are the boundaries here. If you're a woman, you want to be cherished, don't take on any authority because you don't want responsibility. So that means you have to submit to the man. You don't want to submit to a man? Then take care of it yourself. Do not expect a man. But the thing is, she's going to expect the man to do it if the man has weak boundaries. So you have to tell her no. You have to tell her what you are going to do and what you're not going to do, what you are going to accept and what you're not going to accept. And then you have to walk if she won't go along with it. And if you do that, you will start fixing female behavior. That is literally all it takes. There are a bunch of totally fucked up women out there that if men refuse to date them, the second any kind of entitlement or toxic behavior came up, they just said that was it. They got up, they left the date. Do you understand that in a matter of years, this would start to be addressed? Because those women are going to, because the thing is, especially with the desirable men, right? Desirable men are going to rise to the higher portions of the status pool. They're going to do that, right? Women are competitive with each other. That's one of the funny things about this T app, right? It's one of the funny things about the T app because the T app is going to definitely have women sabotaging each other. You are going to have, for as many women on there, probably more, right? For as many women on there are commenting and giving their detailed information about guys who burn them out of genuine desire to help other women, you're going to have as many women, if not more, manipulating what actually occurred to try to sabotage other women's success with those guys. Women do not really try to serve other women. We have women tearing each other down all the time, but they tear each other down by feeding each other's egos. That is the thing. And a lot of women are too immature to understand this. But men who tell you you're fucking up and I'm not dealing with it anymore are actually operating from a position of love. It's a masculine form of love, and it is going to help them to be a better person, which is why women who have strong men in their lives, and I'm not even saying women who are married, but women who have like, good fathers, good brothers, even sometimes, they've just been around like, other really high quality men, that they tend to operate with more honesty and integrity because the men in their lives operate that way and hold her to it. That's why it's always, they say like, if you want to have a good woman, Like a lot of good women are really formed by the presence of good fathers, because the father helps to regulate this sort of narcissism and entitlement, which I'm not saying to be offensive to women, is kind of endemic in women without proper guidance. There's other things that men without the influence of women, they can also become, they can become heartless, or tyrannical. Okay. I'm not saying that men don't benefit from the presence of women too, but the point here is about the women themselves tend to have an aversion towards truth and self-reflection without men holding the mirror up to them in their lives. So that means that other women, in order to get validation from other women, in order to get a leg up on them, will 100% lie about each other. 100%. You're going to see it happen over and over again on this T app. You're going to see it. And all you can really do with these women at this point in time is to create a cordon sanitaire, as they said in French. Basically, a sanitary corridor. You have to cut them off. You have to cut them off from the rest. Men need to start saying, the second they start dating one of these women, the second they see these red flags take place, do not date them. You cannot date them. If you are too seduced by the possibility of sex, I don't even think it's worth trying to like game them and hook up with them. Don't degrade yourself so much by trying to even bother lying to one of these women or playing a game in order to hook up. I really find that to be humiliating on a certain level, because even though you're kind of winning, what you're really still saying is that she had something you wanted. I don't want anything that woman has to offer. I don't want a single fucking thing. I don't want a drop of her energy in my life. I don't even care if she's hot. I don't want her energy around me. And if men started basically operating like that, where it's like, oh, you suck. You are literally a feminist bitch, and I'm not going to spend time with you. I'm not going to date you. They did that. I'm not saying they have to say it like that, but if they certainly operated that way, these women, and they started to actually, but when they met a woman who wasn't like that, a woman who operated in better faith, and they started to act, and then they dated her, and they moved things forward, you're going to see a very, very clear clustering. And I can tell you already, there is a tipping point here where a lot of women are so tired of the dating circumstances today. They're so tired of the lack of men. They're so tired of all the loneliness and the pain that they're feeling, that if they had men who were much more honest and forthright with their intentions, then they would actually be able to relax a lot more, and they are going to move far away from these miserable women. But the reason that they keep being fed by these miserable women is because men aren't telling the truth. Men are not telling them the truth. Now, I do think that we can tell them the truth. There's, I think there's benefits to being a little bit more accessible, right? As in, you can tell the truth without being too provocative, too offensive. But at the end of the day, the truth is the truth, right? You can't water down the delivery so much that you're missing the core point. The core point is that women don't know how to behave. That's the core point. You can say men don't know how to be men, but women definitely don't know how to be women either. And there's plenty of conversation out there about men not knowing how to be men. Fine. But if you want men to be men, then the first thing, okay, here we go. Here's the step. Here's how it works. Men need to act like men more. Okay. How about this? Know your place. What? How can you say that? Because I'm a man. I'm stepping up as a man. You told me to step up as a man, so I'm going to tell you, you don't know how to behave as a woman. Well, I don't like that. Well, then you don't want me to actually be a man, because you don't want me to tell you the truth. You want me to be, your little dancing puppet. And that's the problem with so many of these Christian guys, even like the masculine, I'm conservative, I believe in traditional values. Can you please understand female behavior? Can you please just like call it out? It's bad, guys. It's really bad. It doesn't mean that women are bad. It doesn't mean that a lot of these women who are acting bad can't be taught to act good. But you are going to have to deal with the immediate tension of women getting very triggered and upset at you. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to deal with it. And if you can't deal with it, then don't talk about being a man. Don't talk about anything related to male and female dynamics because, you know, no offense to the boomers, but you're a boomer. You don't understand how things actually operate. That to me is the crux of everything going on right now. As men get their backbone back related to women, they're going to get it back when it comes to everything that's going on in politics today. At a certain point, being a man is saying, I really don't give a fuck. You understand? That's really like the essence of it. I am going to do what needs to be done, and I don't give a fuck. There are a lot of women who say, but this is how I feel about this. I feel about this. And you're not taking into consideration how I feel. And you know what? I am not taking into consideration how you feel because you are hysterical. And first off, you're not my woman. So I cherish my woman. I'm not catering to your neuroticism. You need to listen more. And if you can't listen, you need to leave. A lot of these women are feeling like emotional basket cases because they have no ability to regulate themselves because women were not really meant to regulate themselves. They were meant to have a man in their life who is going to help regulate it. I am not saying that every woman's like this, especially women as they get past menopause, they're better at this. Typically, I want to say typically. At least if they had it before, I'll at least make that determination, right? But the point is that there is a real issue here on this, and it just comes down to men having balls, having boundaries. Are you going to be able to do it? Are you going to be able to say no? I don't, you know, the good thing about things getting so bad is that, you know, I think probably when this trend started with the boomers, right? There were still like, there's so many good rewards. You know what I mean? It was like, man, I get to be like a little bit more of a pussy and I get like laid by 20 different women in this bus going to a music festival. You know, like there was a lot of really perks because you had a really structured society that could absorb some degree of degeneracy, right? But now we've gotten to a point in society where things are so deteriorated. Like, what is your benefit of being with these women? They're not just like you're not just getting like a couple little like benefits anymore. You are dealing with so much bad behavior, so much mental illness. Men are really getting to the point where they're saying, I really just don't care anymore. So when I see women online and they get super, super sensitive because, well, you know, women just want to feel safe, just want to feel safe. If you want to feel safe, you need to shut up and listen to what we are saying, because your way of trying to feel safe is simply perpetuating the problem, because you are trying to control everything around you rather than do something about what you are doing. You are trying to control everything else around you. And the result of trying to control everything else around you is that things get worse because you try to manipulate other people so that they try to make you feel more safe. And then there's resentment and they pull back and then you don't feel safe. It's an ongoing thing. It's a mirror of the liberalism thing, right? Rather than deal with our own personal problem, you know, I can't, another quote Jordan Peterson, but he gets some aspect of this right? Like you can't clean up your room. You can't deal with your immediate vicinity. You can't deal with yourself, but you want to like dictate to the entire world how things need to be run. It's just a typical communist attitude. Okay. So anyway, that's where we're at right now. You fix female behavior by doing what needs to be done and putting boundaries around women who try to disrespect you. And it's not, you don't get butthurt. You don't do it. You just walk away, ignore, don't care, go cry to your room. I'm not your husband, and I'm not going to be your husband because you are not quality. You understand that? You're trying to tell me what to do. You're trying to manipulate me. You have a lot of entitlement and narcissism. I am not interested in taking care of you. And if you want a man to take care of you, if you want a man to care for you, you need to get that out of your head. You need to get that out of your system. You need to start thinking about, what can I be to men? What role can I play to men that would make them want to cherish me? And you know what? Men are telling you all the time, if you want to listen. If you don't want to listen, no one cares. So anyway, guys, that's it for today. Appreciate all of you who came in. Appreciate all the women who are really willing to listen to this stuff. Because look, it's not that men don't need work. A lot of men are going to fall by the wayside. But this is both of us, right? It's both of us. So the women need to take, they need to deal with their part. And men are going, as men step up, part of men stepping up is going to be making you own your part. We're taking step 1, step 2. It's your turn for step 2. Get ready for it. I'll see you guys.